So what you saw me doing there was finishing up a small batch of liner locks from the previous video. And before that, we had made a Damascus twist bar, and I'm going to make some Damascus liner locks. May even make a frame lock. I know I'm going to make 2 folders for sure, but I got these wrapped up, but they come out pretty good. I did a little file work on them, on the back spacers, and I flame colored everything. I like the flame color because I like the variation in colors. Colored the screws, all that good stuff, but these are ready to go. But this is just some vintage micarta on most of this, and some new stuff on this folder here is new. This other stuff I've had around for probably 20 years, and then I've had some people give me some recently, and I've got to cut some of that stuff up. That's a lot of fun. So yeah, I got this small batch done.
Batch? I thought 5 or more was a batch.
Okay, 3.
Well, 3's not a batch. I feel offended.
Offended? Let me show you offended. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get started on this twist Damascus folders. And I won't do a lot of detail on that because that's what I've been covering for the last few videos. Kind of roll through it and have fun with it. I mean, it's Christmas time. Time to have fun. I've got my template glued on here, and you can see the pattern here, the twist pattern. And like I said before, I left these thick so I can grind down and reveal the tighter pattern. I want to maintain a tighter pattern. Now, sometimes I will forge in the blade profile like I did this feather blade here. But I don't want to draw out this billet anymore. Like I said, I want to keep this pattern tight. And I also want to cut out as much as I can and preserve this material for spacers, as much as I can anyway. Then I'm going to go surface grind it down to the thickness I want, and we'll proceed from there. But before I do that, I want to show you something I forgot to mention on these liner locks. And, you know, I just can't think of everything. But when you're bending your lock bar, depending on the liner thickness, this is 50 thousandths. I like to use 60, but I had a good piece of 50, and that's what I made these from. You want to make sure when you bend it that you take into account the flex of the bar. So when you move over your liner and close it, you don't get a bow right here that will wind up hitting your blade. And when it's thinner, the more the bow will be. So what you have to do is move up and bend your lock bar there so that when it does move over, that bend will flatten out and not have a big bow there. Because if you bend it from here, that's what will happen. Also, when you cut your lock face, make sure that when you're testing your lock up, that you actually come in here and put a little pressure with your finger so that you make sure that your spring is hard enough, because you can end up over grinding your lock face because you're not realizing that your spring is not putting full pressure. So always test it as you grinding it. And if it's not enough, you're going to need to bend it a little more because you'll over grind and not realize you've done that. Just some extra thoughts there. All right, so let's get these cut out, surface ground, and move on. So I got them surface ground down to about 140 thousandths. My target is going to be about 125 when I'm all done after heat treating and final finishing and sanding on the flats. But I like to leave room because of scale buildup and all that through the whole heat treating process and finish work. But I got a question for you. This is the drop point and the clip point. Which style is your favorite? Is it the clip or the drop point? I'd love to know. Please leave a comment down below, let me know. But before I go any further, I'm gonna go ahead and take these cutoffs, these twist cutoffs, and I'm gonna forge them down a little more so I can get some width in here. They're just a little shy of what I need for back spacers. That little bit of forging is not going to hurt. I'm going to bring them down to about a 1/4 inch, something manageable. And then I will surface grind them to the final dimension once I figure that out. But I'm going to get that done right now. That way it's out of the way. Well, we got this one cut, and we got this one cut. But what do you see wrong with it? I actually don't have it cut all the way through.
That's because it's a horrible design. It's not very ergonomical.
Where'd you get that from?
Just Google it.
Google what? You can't even spell Google.
Yeah, I can. G-U-G-A-L.
Okay, Google that and see where it takes you. But anyway, I cut it on the wrong side, not paying attention, and potentially have ruined this blade. It only went down about 35 thousandths, so I do have enough blade. If I take it down, surface grind it down, that give me about 115 thousandths remaining, and I can make the blade out of it just a little thinner than I'd like it to be. Or I can go with different designs. I have several other folder designs here. I've got this drop point, but it is too wide to include the flipper. I can make it, you know, a thumb stud opener, but that's what happens when you're not paying attention.
Yeah, it's called karma. Life is a female dog sometimes, ain't it?
Yeah, I guess so, Bubba. I guess I had it coming, didn't I? You right. Look, why don't we try to get along? It's Christmas, okay?
All right.
All right, so what I'm going to do is take a look at it, think about it, and decide on whether I'm going to take this down and use this blade or go with another design. It just goes to show you how easy it is to screw up, and everybody does it, and I'm just showing you mine. I have a lot of them. I'm just glad it's not a custom order. When you got this much time and money in the blade and you haven't even barely started it, it can be very painful in the pocketbook. So I'm gonna figure that out, and I've got to profile this one, and I've got several stainless blades to cut pivot tracks in, or the stop pin tracks that are also in this project. So I made the decision to go ahead and cut the track on the front side. I would lose this anyway when I have to shorten the blade because I've already drilled the stop pin holes over here. And so I'll cut it, then I will profile it, remove the template, see what I'm working with, and go from there. I think I have enough room. If I'm around 120,000, that's just fine. Most of them are that thickness anyway. I just don't like to cut it that close. But we'll go from there. All right, so cleaned up pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. I'm right at 1/8 inch, or 0.125, which is just fine. This blade here is 0.135, so not far off. I swear I like to be to start, because on a carbon steel knife, after I do the heat treating, I got to get rid of the scale. By the time I'm done, I like to be around a little 1/8 or 0.120, something like that. So we should be fine. But now what I'm going to do is get these blades heat treated. I've already did the thermal cycling on them, And the thing I'm going to do is take some Satanite refractory. Since I've already reamed these holes, I'm going to come in here and coat the inside of these holes with Satanite. And the idea is so that I don't lose any kind of ID to scale. I've done this before plenty of times, and I've had good results with it. You could use anti-scale or something like that, I'm sure, or you could do your reaming after heat treat, which is what I prefer. Problem is, when I cut this track, I didn't have an undersized pivot pin for my hold down to do that. If I'd had a 135 pivot, a 185 pivot, that would have been best. And that way I could have just reamed it after heat treating. But this works, so that's what we're going to do. So I get that coated. We're going to get these heat treated. I've already flattened the pieces, surface ground them, knocked the scale off rather, for the back spacers. I'll still have to do that when I get to the bolster stuff, but this is where we're at. Now, while I'm waiting on the blades to finish tempering, I'm gonna go ahead and work on the liners. I've done a lot of work on them already. One side of these liners will have a flathead screw going through. It's a 256 flathead screw, and I need to taper this hole to fit the head of the screw. The screw will go down into the liner or through the liner and sit flush right here, and the scales will go over the top of it. But this is an 82-degree carbide burr, but I'll leave a link in the description. But I use these for flathead 256 screws. So we'll get this in there. I'm gonna get this done, and I'm gonna work on the back spacer, cut it out, get it ready. I've already surface ground it, so I don't have to worry about that. I know the thickness of my blade, so I went ahead, calculated my washers, and got the thickness for my spacer, and it's done, surface ground. So we'll get this done, we'll get back on it. So I'm really glad I was able to save this blade. That's a lot of time, money, and effort to lose one like that. And it's still not over. I could overgrind the lock face. Let's don't say that. But the next thing I got to do is take the bolster material. I'm going to actually draw this out a little more. I want to get more out of these bars. The pattern here, I would like to have a little contrast between the blade instead of exactly the same. So drawing them out will spread that pattern out a little bit, and I can get more material out of it. I actually have two pieces. One of these is going to be another blade, but I'll draw these out, and then I will have to anneal them all over again because I got to do the counter bores and drilling and all that stuff. And then I've got some mammoth ivory handle material that I've been saving forever that I plan to use on this folder. I've had this material probably for 25 years. I bought it at Blade Show back when Bill Moran was still alive, because I think that was his last show. I don't know, maybe it's earlier than that or later than that. I don't remember, but it was at that show. Now the other blade's going to be a frame lock, and I'm going to start on it after I get this one done, which I should get done here in a few days. All goes well. But we're going to have to do that on the next video. Hope you enjoyed this, just another day in the shop. And if you got any questions or comment, please leave them down below. I want to thank my patrons, and Bubba and I would like to wish you
a Merry Christmas.